Welcome, everyone, to Heart Like Harriet. I'm your host, Giselle Phelps, and this is the podcast where we discuss freedom in all forms of love, work, wealth, and creativity. And we have a very special guest today. I'm going to read their intro so that I do them justice. So today we are thrilled to welcome a guest whose work is all about creating freedom in the workplace by building trust, connection, and real communication. Joining us is author, consultant, and speaker, Minda Harts. She is the author of Talk to Me Nice, the 7 Trust Languages for a Better Workplace. And she has made it her mission to help organizations and individuals build meaningful work lives. On this episode, we'll dive into her career journey, unpack the 7 trust languages from her book, and explore what freedom in work really looks like in today's world. Minda!
Hey, Giselle.
Hey, girl. Welcome to Heart Like Harriet.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Minda and I go back to New York, so we're
from back in the stacks.
Yeah, we do. We do. Okay, so Minda, I open Heart Like Harriet every episode asking guests what freedom means to them. So what does it mean to you?
Freedom means just no longer feeling confined. And I think that when we have felt confined, it's a feeling that we never want to go back to. And so I prioritize my freedom.
How do you prioritize your freedom?
By saying yes to the things that bring me joy and saying no to the things that bring me stress, right? But it was a long time. It took me a long time to get there because I thought I always had to say yes to things. I thought that I always had to make myself fit into somebody else's box. And I realized that 2 things can be true. You can be supportive of other people, you can help other people, but you have to prioritize your mental health and your sanity and your freedom so that people understand what your boundaries are.
Amen. And let's get into Talk to Me Nice. Just that title alone, you know, it has a little edge to it, that title.
It's spicy.
It's spicy. So tell me how you came to wanting to write this book on this subject matter of trust in the workplace.
Yeah. So for many people who may not be familiar with my other books, I wrote 3 other books that centered around the experiences of women of color in the workplace. And what I didn't realize, Giselle, is that I had always been speaking about trust. It just wasn't as apparent to me at the time because what I had been writing about in the memo and right within is those erosions of trust that take place for women of color, Black and brown women. And then when I thought about it from a global lens, I'm like, you know what? Everybody experiences erosions of trust, not just Black and brown women. And maybe if we humanize the experiences of all people, like, you know what it feels like when trust is gone, and you know what it feels like when it's there. And if we could start there, then maybe we could solve some of these other societal issues if we have a foundation of humanity.
So let's back this conversation up a little bit because we're going to get really in deep here. But I want listeners to understand your background and how you even got here. You do a lot of things, which is freedom in itself. You're a consultant, a speaker, an author. I know you're getting into film and TV now. Bring us, share a little bit of your career journey. And, you know, I know you're sharing that in the memo, the short film. Just kind of bring folks up to speed about how you even got to this place where writing books on workplace culture and trust is something that you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny where life will take you. You know, I always think about the Forrest Gump when he says life is like a box of chocolates. It really is because you just never know what you'll get. And when I was in my corporate role, I was fighting for my life in many cases. I was making good money, but I wasn't being respected. My humanity wasn't prioritized by other people. And I thought that because I had a good paying job, right, the good job and good healthcare, that this is something I had to make work. And over time, it started to impact my mental health. I started to have anxiety and panic attacks. bullying in the workplace, not because I did anything wrong, being the top performer and still not having any agency. And I started this dinosaur thing called a blog in 2015. It was my way of just giving voice to what was going on. I thought, if I'm experiencing this, then maybe there's other people who are as well. And how do we get out of this? Not just kind of singing the spiritual song of woe is me, but how do we overcome? How do we get to that freedom space, right? And so I just started writing that Monday memo every Monday, and eventually those 4 years worth of memos became my first best-selling book called The Memo.
Yeah, and so I remember the memo way back when.
Yeah.
And so when you started the memo, was this the vision? Did you have this vision for where this could go and the community that you could build?
I had no idea. Literally, I was turning a mess that I was kind of inherited in the workplace, and I thought, what can I make? Can I make this mess out of a message? Right. And I really just thought this was just more therapy for me. Right.
Yeah.
This was a space that I got to have freedom. I still had to work that job, even though I was experiencing it. But I started to look at it as, how can I make this work for me now? And, you know, that little memo that I was doing on MailChimp with my mom and dad and my brothers as the first subscribers, eventually it turned into something. And that's when I had the aha moment, like, this is more than just that little blog.
Yeah. I love what you said, that writing the memo, your blog and newsletter, was the space of freedom that you found within the context of the corporate world you were living in.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to find those places where we can be free.
Absolutely. Freedom wasn't quitting, because that would have created more issues because I didn't have the savings that I needed and all of that. And so I had to heal while I was in hell. And sometimes we have to carve out those spaces for our freedom.
Say that again.
Healing while in hell. It is possible, y'all. I'm a direct example of it.
Listen, that was good. Okay, so I want to get into the book itself. So you talked about kind of what the spark was for Talk to Me Nice. So you identify trust as a central pillar of a functioning workplace. In your view, what does that look like in day-to-day work life for both employees and leaders?
Yeah, it reminds me of, I think most of us are familiar with the 5 love languages, right? It's, if I could give you love, but if you're not receiving it in the way that you see fit, then you may feel like I don't love you in the ways that you need. And I found that if we speak a language romantically and platonically, then what's that workplace language? When trust breaks down, is it because I'm a bad person or you're a bad person, or because there's an expectation that you may not be aware of that's happening, right? And I realized when people would say to me, oh, I don't trust my manager, or I don't trust my colleague, it wasn't that they didn't trust them, but something was missing, right? There was something that they expected that that person wasn't delivering on. And those were the erosions of trust. And I thought, well, it's less of a trust issue and more of a communication crisis. Can we have better conversations? If you knew that I needed something, Giselle, 9 times out of 10, you're going to give it to me, because you're going to get the best out of me if you know that this is how I view trust.
And so, you know, I think back on my career and being in television, and really a lack of trust is one of the main reasons I left TV news, right? And so when I think about that, especially as anybody who comes from a marginalized community, whether you're a Black woman or part of the queer community, or, you know, maybe you're somebody living with a disability, regardless of what it is, do you think that folks that are in marginalized communities, can we achieve the level of trust necessary for us to really thrive in these corporate systems that were created to not include us?
I mean, maybe because I'm an optimist that I think that it's possible, but I do think we also have to talk about history. Why are some marginalized groups distrustful, or low trust is hanging in the balance? It's because of our history, right? In the workplace. For example, I write about, enslaved individuals. Work looked very different for Black and brown people or African Americans, right? And so our trust may be sitting differently. We might be side-eyeing certain people because of everything that we've experienced and that our ancestors experienced. So you can't expect us to trust at the same level as somebody else, right? And we also have to honor that as well. So I think one of the languages that we'll talk about is demonstration. That's going to take people leveraging their actions that align with their values. And I think for us, if we don't see that consistent alignment with people's values, then we're not going to trust, right? But I think we are very trusting individuals. We want to believe that people have our back. And so I think we might even, I have no data to support this, Giselle, but I think we probably could be the most trusting because we want to believe in the American dream. We want to believe that people want to have our back. But, unfortunately, due to history, we see that that hasn't always been true.
Yeah, history has shown us otherwise, and we have to pay attention to what history has shown us. But you said something really great there. You said that folks in the workplace have to understand that we might not be as trusting. So if you're a leader in a workplace who's leading a diverse team of people, you have to understand that their life experiences are going to shape how much they might trust the culture of that workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, you can say my name in all the rooms that I'm not in, but I still could be wondering what is the real intent here? Because again, we have an experience of where, you get 5 steps ahead, then you're taking 2 steps back. So I think I don't want us to live that way, right? That's why I think it's important for us to talk about it. But if you are in the dominant group, I think it's important for you to ask those individuals, what does trust look like to you?
Yeah.
Because then that's going to open it up. Because if I'm doing the thing that I think you might want, that might make me cringe, right? That you're doing what you think is trustworthy, but it's not trustworthy to me. And I think we have to ask people what they want.
Yeah, like that potluck is not trustworthy to me.
At all. It looks wet, and Mommy said don't eat those.
I can't trust the potluck. I'm sorry. So, yeah, you're going to have to read the room on that. Okay, so I'm going to refer to my notes because I want to make sure that I'm referencing the book correctly. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, so for someone who feels stuck in work, and their work doesn't feel freeing, right? That has maybe like the experience you had when you were in corporate, and there might be mistrust or they feel unseen. What's like one practical step they could take, using your 7 trust languages?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to first trust ourselves, because I think so many situations that we're in, we start to question who we are, and we don't trust our gut anymore, and we don't trust our decision-making process. So I would encourage people to hone in on what trust means to you. Ask yourself, what does a trusting environment look like? What do I need out of this environment to do my best work? And if you're not able to get that, then maybe you start to plan where that place is, right? Yeah. Because we don't want to participate in our own oppression. At some point, right, we have to decide that this is going to be a place where I can find trust, or it's not. And we do have more options and more choices and more power than we give ourselves credit for. So I would first start internally. And then if you do want to stay where you're at, activate your voice. Advocate for the things that you need once you're clear on what your needs are.
Yeah. And so with all that, if you've mastered the 7 trust languages, what does freedom at work look like?
No workplace is perfect, right? We're always going to experience somebody doing something, because at 7:00 in the morning, you could have trust and they do or say the thing, and it's gone by 7:03.
That email comes through with some shade, or noted, or all these all that email lingo,
coded language.
Yes, as I said,
per my last
email. Woo!
CCing somebody on it that has no business being CC'd. I mean,
that's all. Yes.
So how do you find those moments? I think once you understand what your trust languages are, you might have a primary, a secondary, or a tertiary. Also remember that trust is a two-way street. So if you have trust languages, somebody that you work with probably also is expecting something of you. And so what I would do is, let's say, for example, you're not getting feedback, and that's one of your primary trust languages. You feel like you can't trust your manager because they never give you any feedback on anything you do. So you're just kind of like do I have a place here? Do they care about what I'm doing? And instead of kind of going down that rabbit hole and creating a narrative that may or may not be true about why they're not giving you feedback, what would it look like to ask for it? Right. And so let's ask for what we want, because data shows that 80% of people will leave a job they love, but once conflict arises, they will peace out. They won't even have the conversation. And so in this climate, in this economy, give yourself permission, give yourself that freedom to say, you don't have to go and say, hey, you don't give me feedback, you must hate me, you don't want me to be successful. But you could say, you know, I really value when you offer me feedback at the end of a project. Is that something we can work on more together? Can we partner on that, because I really value your insight? They're going to be like, oh, I didn't know you needed that.
Yeah.
And now we're giving ourselves a little more freedom. Perhaps we get the feedback that we're looking for, and it gives us a little more space to be productive.
And you just said something that's so important. The economy, the job market that we're living in currently probably changes those dynamics, even compared to just a few years ago when everybody was talking about quiet quitting. You know, it's like, I don't think we're quiet quitting anymore.
You better
right?
wake up. No more napping.
Yeah. So the economy plays a part in this too, right? Because somebody might be more, you know, invested or more willing to adapt the skills and techniques that you outline in Talk to Me Nice in this type of environment where you can't job hop as quickly as you could before.
Right.
Where, you know, jobs are being cut and salaries are being cut and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think in this climate, everybody needs to be
strategize those conversations, at least have them, you know, because someone might give you what you actually ask for.
Yeah. And it also makes me think about leadership too, especially as a business owner and somebody who runs a company, right? I think anybody who has had a team, you learn really quickly that one of the biggest things you need to learn is having uncomfortable conversations. Like if you are a CEO, a founder, or anybody that leads a team of folks, like having tough and uncomfortable conversation is like one of the main parts of the job. And so it requires you to do a lot of inner work.
Absolutely. You nailed it. I mean, just because we have to have tough conversations, we can still keep trust the main character, right? I can have a tough conversation with you and not strip you of your humanity. And I think that a lot of leaders have tough conversations and then they don't think about how their words and behaviors lands on the person on the receiving side. It's like, bro, they're human first, employees second. You know, we can't forget
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
But just thinking about the trust on both sides of the equation, right? Like, and I think for leadership as well, like, you know, this book goes both ways. It's whether you are working in a large organization or you're an entrepreneur leading a smaller team of folks. So, okay. Let's talk a little bit about your career pivot, okay? Because as you've mapped out for us, you went from working in corporate, writing the daily memo, to writing books. Now I know you're pivoting into film and TV. How have you found the freedom in trusting yourself to do all of that? I want to dive into this a little bit because you know, just following your career, I'm like, you really have carved out a lot of freedom for yourself in the work that you do.
Thank you for acknowledging me. That is my primary trust language. I appreciate that.
Oh, is it?
Giselle, it is. Yes. So thank you for that. What I will say is there's a through line in everything that I do. And there's that human connection, right? That human connectivity. And before I became an author, I used to, in college and high school, write plays, write screenplays, and I'd write poetry. And so I've always been a writer, but I never knew that I could actually make a career out of it. I didn't have anyone around me that was in film and TV, never spoken to anybody. You know, the closest I got to film and TV was the TV, right?
Right, yeah.
So I just didn't know it was a thing, but I used to just write for me. And then once I became an author and public speaker, and I'm like, wait a second, I really have the ability to create that freedom for myself. And I started investing in myself, taking screenwriting classes and film classes, saying that, you know, I want to meet the opportunity when it arises. And when it did, when Felicia Butterfield said, I want to option the Memo, your first book, into a short film, it was a sign from the Most High to say, you know what, you don't have to wait on permission. You know, you don't have to wait on someone to tap you on the back and all the other plays and all the other films and, content that you have, you do it. And so God has blessed me in a position where I can put my art out there, and that's what I'm doing.
I love it. And I'm so proud of you, honestly, just to see that journey. And I will say, I've seen the Memo. It's really good. Like, I love that dog.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy that you guys were able to, take it to festivals. And just for folks that may not know, the Memo stars Kyla Pratt.
Yes.
And it was it written by Nakia Stevens Yes,
it was written by Nakia Stevens.
Yeah. I mean, there's a really amazing crew attached to the Memo.
Yep.
So if folks have a chance to go see it wherever, is it available anywhere?
It is available right now. You can go on YouTube and watch it. So put in the Memo, Kyla Pratt, and enjoy.
Yeah,
yes.
You should. It's really, really good. And I love that it's a thriller. I think a workplace thriller starring a Black woman is so on the nose. I'm like, Jordan Peele, you need to get in on that.
Please do.
Yeah, you said please do. Oh, okay. So thinking of the future of work, we're in this environment post-COVID, right? Where during the pandemic, remote work became, all the rage. Then we're seeing, corporations kind of try and pull back the reins on that. So where do you see the future of work going when it comes to freedom and flexibility? Because when you talk to a lot of young people, I know anybody from Gen Z that I've ever interviewed for an opportunity, flexibility is like their number one requirement outside of obviously salary, benefits, and all that. But flexibility, they want to work from wherever. That's huge.
It is huge. I think it's important because it's funny. I was having a conversation with a person from Gen Z, and they were telling me, I'd rather live in my car than work a 9-to-5 that I have to sit in the office every day. And I'm like, wow. I was like, wow, because we come from a generation where most of our lives we were inside a 9-to-5. But I thought, man, that is freedom to be able to know what you want to do and decide that I would rather, quote unquote, what might be a sacrifice to somebody else. This is freedom to me. Right. And there's power in that. And for them to be so young, to be able to already realize what their boundaries are, I think is a lesson to all of us older generations to take heed to that. But I do think that there's no future of work without trust. So rather it's AI or it's return to work, whatever it is that's going to take place, because just like the Industrial Revolution and the internet, all of these things impacted the workplace. We adapted, we evolved. And so I don't want people to be afraid of what's coming next, but I also think it's important for leaders to communicate and be transparent with their workforce to say, hey, this is coming, right? But here's how you can be part of it too. And I think that we can still have a future of work that incorporates human aspects and human connection with the right upskilling. And so I think the companies that win at the end of the day are ones that see that two things can exist at the same time.
And you mentioned AI, girl. So,
Yeah.
AI, when it comes to freedom, that's an interesting conversation. I know we could go down a whole rabbit hole on that because I do think that there are certain AI tools that obviously can make your work life more free. They free up time. They make creativity easier. But then there's the other side.
Yeah, but there always is another side, right? Do you remember when people went like crazy when the internet was like really becoming a thing, or Y2K and things like that? Like we thought the world was going to end.
That's true.
And we figured out how to incorporate it into our lives, and we upskilled and we use it in our business. And I hope that we will still do the same thing. But AI does bring a freedom, but we don't have to let it overtake us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close to wrapping up this conversation, but I want to do a little, rapid fire. So what is one daily or weekly practice that Minda Harts has to stay grounded and free in your own work?
That's a great question. For me, it's the Peloton. That is the place where I get to unplug. And I do not just the rides, but the meditations, the floor exercises. And so for me, I try to prioritize a place where that gives me freedom from everything that's going on. So that is a weekly practice. No matter where I'm at, I find a Peloton.
Okay. Who's your favorite Peloton instructor?
You know, I do love Tunde.
I was going to say, Tunde is very popular. Yeah.
I do, but I actually like, it's funny, Giselle, I watched the rides in, is it Dutch? I think some of the
What?
Yeah, and I don't know what they're saying, but they have really great playlists, and I just ride, girl. I just ride. And
in Dutch? Not you doing a Duolingo Peloton mashup.
I'm like, Evita Zen, I'm doing this.
That's actually, that is a brilliant idea, Peloton and Duolingo, to do a mashup, because you could learn a second language while you're working out. Mm-hmm. Minda, Peloton and Duolingo, if you want to sponsor Minda's episode of Heart Like Harriet,
yes, please.
Let us know. You might be onto something there. That's really interesting. So any final thought that you want to share with Heart Like Harriet's listeners about freedom and freedom in work?
You know, thank you again for having me. Honored to be here with you. I would say that freedom is also trust, right? Again, trusting ourselves, trusting that we have the right people around us. And if we don't, make sure that we get those people around us. But freedom is a choice and trust is a choice.
Awesome. On that note, we're going to wrap this up. Let people know where they can find you, find your books, your speaking engagement, and all the things.
Yes. Follow me at mindaharts.com. And from there, you can find my social platforms that you like to play on.
Thank you. This episode was great. Minda, you brought a lot of gems, a lot of substantial information that people can use, and your wisdom, insights, and heart. So thank you.
Thank you.
Minda Harts brought the heart.
I brought the heart.
Yeah. Okay, so folks, you know the drill. I need you to like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if this episode inspired you, made you think a little bit more about what freedom in work means for you, please share it, send it to a friend. And for listeners who want to go deeper, pick up a copy of Talk to Me Nice, and you can follow Minda's work on all the platforms, and bring those 7 trust languages to your day-to-day. So that's it. Thank you for listening to Heart Like Harriet, where we discuss all things freedom in love, work, wealth, and creativity. I'm Giselle Phelps, and always live with a heart like Harriet.